Hello everybody. This is a chunk of wood that Scott Matthews sent me. It's an oak burl that he found 25 years ago, and he cut it off a fallen tree. He's been holding it, kicking it around his shop ever since, and he sent it to me to see if I could figure out what to do with it. I've had this for a few months now. I actually had it sitting on my desk just so I could see it and try and figure out what to do with it. I mean, the obvious thing is to make a bowl. I was just trying to figure out the best way to do it. I think I've got that figured out, so here we go. You see all that dust coming off? You can tell this thing's really dry. And most of that dust is coming off of the bark. The wood itself is really hard, as you can imagine it would be after sitting around for 25 years. But I like a challenge. Now the base of the bowl here is pretty special, so I don't want to take too much of this off, but I do need to make it nice and round so that I can also use it as the tenon for mounting on the chuck. And I also need to flatten out the bottom, which I'm doing with the parting tool here. And here I think you can see why I don't want to take very much of this off. It's got those four nodules, or whatever you want to call them, on the bottom there. And there's some bark that's going to be left on there as well. If all goes right. It's going to look pretty good. You can hear my reaction there. As I was turning this, I so didn't want to screw this up. It's got the one side that has a flare coming out, so it's a really uneven turn. And I'm just trying to maximize it. So I sanded 180 to 220, applied sanding sealer, resanded 220 to 320, sanding sealer again, resanded, and then ultimately applied clear shellac as the final finish, which I sanded to 1000 and then applied a second coat. It turned out real nice. That's just the outside. You can see I had that mounted between centers. Let's take a look at what some of you have been doing before I flip this around. So Mike West made these. That's a beautiful pen, and I love this bowl in particular. Just gorgeous work on this one. That one's not too shabby either. Really nice work, Mike. And Russ Hules, I hope I'm saying your name right, Russ. I like your style here. These are my kind of turnings. Very nice work. Thanks both of you for sending me your pics and letting me share them with the audience. And thanks everybody for subscribing. I sure appreciate you helping my channel grow. I just can't thank you enough. I mentioned that off-center flare before. I think you can see it a little bit better now. See how it's swinging out to the one side? Well, it's not just that. It's also cut at an angle. So I have to be really careful here. My intent is, I think, obviously here to make a natural edge bowl, but I also want to incorporate some of the original cuts that Scott made when he harvested this burl. This is going to be different. My reaction there was to how hard that wood is. It kept feeling like it was grabbing the gouge and coming loose in the chuck, but it never did come loose. And yeah, I was sweating it a little bit there. Just really trying hard not to screw this one up. It's just so special. I do think it's important to show how long a pass really takes. I know I mix up the speeds in my videos, but I just want to show as much content as I can in the shortest amount of time and still make it watchable. But it's also important for all of you turners out there to see that there can be a common misconception when it comes to watching wood turning on YouTube. It's just not a fast process. And when you're dealing with wood that's this hard and with this much potential trouble, you just really want to take your time. Take your time, be really gentle. Just making delicate cuts. Enjoy the process. Don't be in a hurry to get to the end of it. And the same process that I described before. The only difference here is that I'm being careful on the rim of this bowl not to sand away any of the saw marks that Scott put in there. Hopefully you can see some around the edge. And what that is just gold leaf paint. And all I'm doing here is just trying to put what looks like a vein of gold in the crack inside of this burl. Nothing too bold. Just kind of subtle around the edges. It tones down a little bit when I put the finish on it, which is good. But I really like the effect of it. And I'm sure I'm going to get comments about some people wishing I would have used resin in there, but I think you know me well enough by now, if you watch a lot of my videos, that although I enjoy using resin, it's not my go-to. Just different ways of doing things is all. I like trying new things. And to be very clear, I've got nothing against the use of resin. I just didn't want to do it this time. And there's a good look at the rim and the saw marks that are still there. I really like how that turned out. Let me know what you think. Thanks so much for watching. Semper Fi.